We started with our Building the Bridges sessions actually from the year 2018, 7th September 2018, যেদিন আমাদের Building the Bridges Part 1 হয়েছিল. And we are very happy that today also at the same time we have Miss Rashmi Mantri, who had been the keynote speaker on that event also, but a situation we never knew that actually we would like to have this session on the third term online through screen, but we are expecting যে ঠিক সেরকম যেরকম ভাবে আমরা building the bridges start করেছিলাম. Second year we had it with Sharbani Mullik ma'am and Dhanu John from Bangalore, and in this third session today the topic being building the bridges part 3, which is about the scope of inclusive education in the proposed national education policy. We have Rashmi Mantri ma'am with us today. Before we get into the session, we also, it's a very special day for us because it's going to be the day when we are going to have our website for the first time for Samya Foundation. Before that, আমি সবাইকে বলবো, I would request everyone to take a look at the group chat where the link for the YouTube live stream, which has been held by Bhavna Child Development Center, YouTube live streaming. The link is given there. So কারোর যদি কাউকে আমাদের ফরওয়ার্ড করতে হয়, বা if you think someone known to you is not being able to access the Zoom space, we would request you all to enter through the live stream through YouTube, and you can post your questions there too. So before we get into the session, I would request the president of our organization, Sri Ashok Kumar Bandopadhyay, to say a line. Who is the president of our organization, Samya Foundation for Special Needs. Sir, if you could have your one line, please. Yes, you are unmuted. Just a moment. Yes, you are unmuted. Mr. Odhikari, if you're there, Mr. Orunashish Odhikari, could you kindly help, because আমি unmute করছি আর বারবার mute হয়ে যাচ্ছে. If you could kindly help, sir.
নমস্কার।
হ্যাঁ, থ্যাংক ইউ। হ্যাঁ, আমরা শুনতে পাচ্ছি আপনাকে। হ্যাঁ,
শোনা যাচ্ছে?
হ্যাঁ, শোনা যাচ্ছে।
নমস্কার, শুভ সন্ধ্যা। আমি সাম্য ফাউন্ডেশনের ট্রাস্টি বোর্ডের প্রেসিডেন্ট হিসেবে আজকে আপনাদের সবাইকে আজকের এই আনন্দ সন্ধ্যায় স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি। আজকে বিল্ডিং দ্য ব্রিজেস পার্ট 3 আছে, আর আজকে আমাদের সাম্য ফাউন্ডেশনের ওয়েবসাইটটাও লঞ্চ করা হবে। এখন গোটা বিশ্বে এই যে করোনা অতিমারির আবহে গোটা পৃথিবী ধুঁকছে, আমি প্রার্থনা করি আপনারা সবাই সুস্থ থাকুন, ভালো থাকুন। আবেদন রাখছি আপনাদের সবাইয়ের কাছে, আপনারা যে সমস্ত স্বাস্থ্য সুরক্ষা বিধি আছে সেগুলো মেনে চলুন, নিজেরা সুস্থ থাকুন, সবাইকে সুস্থ রাখুন। সবাইকে সুস্থ রাখার জন্য আপনাদের যা করণীয় সেটা করুন। সবাই ভালো থাকুন। আমি ঈশ্বরের কাছে আবার প্রার্থনা করছি যেন সবাই সুস্থ থাকেন, ভালো থাকেন, সবাই ভালো থাকুন। এই বলে আমি আমার কথা শেষ করলাম। ধন্যবাদ, নমস্কার।
ধন্যবাদ, থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ। সো উইথ দিস আমাদের বিফোর উই গেট ইনটু দ্য ওয়েবিনার, আজকে এই আনন্দের দিনে আমি আপনাদের সবার সাথে একটা আনন্দ মুহূর্ত আমাদের শেয়ার করে নিতে চাই। আর সেটা হচ্ছে যে আমাদের এই সাম্য ফাউন্ডেশনকে নিয়ে একটা ভিডিও তৈরি হয়েছিল। সেই ভিডিওটা হ্যালো, I would request my co-host Ananya Jana to kindly tell me that if my screen is visible and if I am audible.
Hello.
Hello. Is the screen
Yes, you
visible?
are audible. Screen is visible.
So does it show championing the cause of developmental differences? Hello. Hello. Anonna, I can't hear you. So if Angela Semi Mondol could help me, please.
Yes, so
Hello.
we can see
Hello.
two files over here.
So if I'm opening this file, is it seen?
No,
Is
it's
it
not.
No, it's not.
not? Okay, okay. So kindly wait because আমরা আজকে ডিসাইড করেছি আমরা নিজেরা কোনো কথা বলতে চাই না, আমাদের ছেলে মেয়েদের মধ্যে দিয়েই আমরা সব সময় শেয়ার করতে চাই আমাদের কাজটাকে। So here today I'm trying to share it one more time again. Just give me some time. So আমাদের একটা ফিল্ম হয়েছিল Cinema for a Cause. Cinema for a Cause came forward with us and they wanted to make this film on Shammo Foundation, which is a 12 minutes documentary, after which we are launching the website. So kindly Anonna Jana, give me the feedback if I'm trying to share it one more time, if my screen is seen. Once you say, I'll play the video.
Yes,
Screen
Didi.
it is seen,
Visible.
blue screen. Okay,
Yes.
so let's watch Samya Foundation.
Samya Foundation was founded in 2017 as a non-profit charitable trust engaged in humanitarian initiatives by developing different services and initiatives for those with different and special developmental needs. It is constituted with an advisory board of 10 members and works towards the mission of achieving equality for all. Samya Foundation's various activities and initiatives have touched the lives of more than 150 children and more than 100 families with children who have developmental differences, bringing in hope and sunshine in the lives of many.
Samya Foundation. The name itself suggests equality. In 3 years, we have been able to achieve quite a bit in the steps towards it. Our co-founder, Aditi, has been continuous.
সাউন্ডটা কি করবে বললে? আচ্ছা আচ্ছা ওকে হ্যালো hello, actually I think there's a problem going on, right? সাউন্ডটা শোনা যাচ্ছিল না। অনন্যা জানা, kindly feedback please.
Yes, sound একটু কম আসছিল।
হ্যাঁ, তো আমি রিশেয়ার করছি আরেকবার because sorry about it. This is the new normal which I really hate. But anyway, we can't help doing that. So I'm just sharing it one more time because I think I got a feedback from Oruna Shishbabu je dekha jacchilo na. So I'm sharing it one more time. And Anonna Jana, kindly give me the feedback that if it's being seen.
Yes.
Oh, just a moment. আমি সাউন্ডটা চেক করে পাঠাচ্ছি। হ্যালো হ্যালো
হ্যাঁ,
হ্যাঁ, অনন্যা জানা, প্লিজ গিভ মি দ্য ফিডব্যাক বিকজ আই ক্যান্ট হিয়ার।
এখনো কিছু শোনা যাচ্ছে না।
হ্যাঁ, so I am sharing my screen one more time again. Just let me know if the thumbnails
দেখা
appear.
যাচ্ছে, থাম্বনেল
এখন-
দেখা যাচ্ছে।
এখন ফিল্মটা এসছে? ফিল্মটা কি এসেছে?
না, ফিল্মটা আসেনি, অনলি দুটো থাম্বনেল দেখা যাচ্ছে।
ওকে ওকে, এক্ষুনি আমরা আবার স্টার্ট করছি। আমি স্টপ শেয়ার করে ফিল্মটা স্টার্ট করে করছি। দিস ইজ আ প্রবলেম, আমরা সলভ করে নিচ্ছি এক্ষুনি। হ্যালো,
হ্যাঁ, সাউন্ড শোনা গেছে।
সাউন্ড শোনা গেছে। সো আই এম শেয়ারিং স্ক্রিনটা, আমি আরেকবার শেয়ার করছি। আর না হলে we have to leave it, I need the idea, I guess. So এইবারে এবারে কি দেখা যাচ্ছে?
নট ইয়েট। এবার দুটো থাম্বনেল দেখা যাচ্ছে।
ফিল্মটা কি আসছে?
ফিল্ম আসছে না, অনলি দুটো থাম্বনেল দেখা যাচ্ছে।
Okay. Okay, I think let's not waste time. So we will go directly to the webinar in that case, because we are wasting time. আসছে না, আমি ফিল্মটা somehow দেখাতে পারছি না। So I would request right now, আমি স্ক্রিনটাকে Samya documentary in between যদি আমরা পারি, between the question hour session and the webinar, we will try to show that, because technical issues and we can't help that. So we have with us today Rituparna Sarkar, our very good friend of Samya, and Rituparna ma'am ke ami ekটু unmute korchi, and I would request her to inaugurate the website of Samya Foundation, of the moment that we all are waiting for. Just a moment. And we will share the YouTube, Anana Jana, if you could share the YouTube link of the documentary on the chat box, please.
শিওর।
I would request Rituparna ma'am, if you could put your video on, because we are not being able to find you. Can Angela Semi-Mondal help me in the process?
Can we see Rituparna ma'am now? Is Rituparna ma'am visible on the screen now?
ইয়েস।
Okay. Aditi ma'am, you are muted. You have to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Okay, a lot of technical issues, which I am really not very comfortable with. The documentary idea is gone for now, so we will do it somewhere later. Thank you very much, Rituparna ma'am, and my very good friend Rituparna, for being there. If we could have a word from you, and I hope we will be able to share the screen with the website. Welcome, Rituparna. We can't hear you actually. Rituparna ma'am, we aren't being able to hear you. Kindly hold on, because we can't hear you. হ্যাঁ, অরুণাশিস বাবু, শোনা যাচ্ছে না তো ঋতুপর্ণা ma'am। Hello, Rituparna ma'am. If you could take out the headphone and speak, that is what is being suggested, because we can't hear you. So if you could. এখনো তো শোনা যাচ্ছে না। আমরা একটু হেল্পলাইনে ডকুমেন্টস অরুণাশিস অধিকারী অরুণাশিস বাবু একটু কাইন্ডলি হেল্প করবেন। হ্যাঁ, কিন্তু ওনার কথা শোনা যাচ্ছে না। একটু কাইন্ডলি হ্যাঁ আপনি একটু বলুন ঋতুপর্ণা ম্যাম, উই আর ট্রাইং টু ওয়ার্ক অন ইট। হ্যালো, ইয়েস ঋতুপর্ণা ম্যাম, একটু যদি আপনি বলেন। না, আমি বুঝতে পারছি না, ঠিক আছে বলছি। Hello. Hello. Am I audible? Okay. So, Rituparna ma'am, you are unmuted, and that is what we are having a problem to hear you. So, would it be possible for you to log in again? That is what is being suggested. Because we can't hear you, and we want to start the webinar at the earliest after launching the website. Everything is ready. If I'm sharing the screen is being seen. Anna ma'am or Angelus, please.
Cannot see it yet.
Okay. Yes, so we are just waiting for Rituparna ma'am to log in again. Yes, Rituparna ma'am has logged in. Yes, we are unmuting you. Yes, yes, Rituparna. I really don't know what is happening. Orunashish Babu, if you could kindly intervene and help us here. Hello. Hello.
I'd suggest something, Rituparna ma'am. Can you see the mute button on the left corner of the screen? Okay. Now, if you just put your pointer over it, can you see an up button just beside that? A tiny up button just beside it?
Probably it's
Yes.
the audio settings issue. This is Arunashi speaking.
Okay, okay. We can't hear. Actually, we would have requested Rituparna ma'am to inaugurate our website. So I'm unmuting her again. Orunashish Babu, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Yeah. Rituparna ma'am is unmuted. Hello. শোনা যাচ্ছে না কিছু।
ঋতুপর্ণা, can you try one thing? আপনি একটু আপনার ওই মাইকের সিম্বলের পাশে একটা দেখবেন, একটা অডিও সেটিংস অপশনটা পাবেন। Just click on that audio settings. Small arrow. If you click on that, you will get lot of option. And in the microphone section, you change the Microsoft microphone section. There is 2 or 3 options. You just change the options. Maybe it will solve the problem. It is not. Then click on the test speaker and microphone. Or if you have any other device, if you can do one thing, if you try your mobile or some other device, from there you just log in. Meanwhile, this problem maybe we can look in later.
Yeah, because we were having sound issues with the video also. So in between, with Rituparna ma'am there, Rituparna, I'm just sharing the screen. And yes, dear Rituparna ma'am, I see her on another device. Could we unmute her there? Please, Arunashish Babu, to help Korben.
Am I audible, Aditi?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay, now I have
Oh, God.
logged into my phone.
Okay, thank you so much. What a relief. I was going to. Yeah, so good to hear you. And
Let's
it's
get
a very
started,
special.
Aditi. No need
Yes.
for anybody else to speak. We have
Okay.
a reason to get connected. And let's see to it that we go ahead with the program.
webinar.
We are all
So-
very eager to hear Rashmi. So
Right.
let's get going.
Okay, so I just shared the page. Is the page seen?
Yes, the
Of
page is
Samya
seen.
Foundation. So can we have a loud round of clap for the website? Because this is the first time the website is seen on the domain. Thank you very much to all the support. And Rituparna ma'am had really been motivating us for the website. She helped us get it. And I also would like to thank Angela Semi Mondol and Bhaskar Roy Chaudhary, our website designer, for the process. So screen তে কি দেখা যাচ্ছে ওয়েবসাইটটা আপনাদের সবাইকে আমরা রিকোয়েস্ট করব thank you so much to go to our pages and check our website and that is the website, first website of Samya Foundation, and it is going to be the website. So please log into our website to get more details, because every time we had been hearing, and there are so many people here. And I see our research fellow here, Mopikta, who's been telling that I want to recommend Samya and about Samya to people, and we don't have a web presence. So this is a very special moment for us. Very excited am I. Thank you. So before any more delay, thank you, Rituparna, and thank you all the people who had been behind this website. I would give the stage to Rashmi Mantri ma'am, who is also our advisory. With this, I am muting Rituparna ma'am for now. And the program, I would like to say, would be coordinated in the question and answer session by Rituparna ma'am and Mohua Ghosh. Mohua is there, who are our advisory board members. But for now, we are giving the stage for now for the entire session actually to Rashmi Mantri ma'am, who is our advisory board member as well as a big well-wisher of Samya, and she's going to empower us today with her insight and all the things that we need to know about national education policy. Today we can't have a tea break as we have tea break or snacks break or lunch break as we have in every Building the Bridges. So today maybe during that time we can get in through the documentary, because you need to see our children, our participants. But before that, the stage is over to Rashmi Mantri ma'am. Thank you so much ma'am for being there. She's a very well-known person in the field of special education, a resource person of inclusive education in all CBSE Group of Schools, HOD, head of the Department of Special Education in Apeejay Group of Schools, and a very compassionate person for her students. So you must see the many shades of her. Today she'll be there as a speaker, but I have seen her as a teacher. I have seen her being a second mother to each and every student of hers. So welcome, Rashmi Mantri ma'am.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, that's God's grace, I would say. Yes. So on that note, there's a saying, when the beginning starts to shake you a bit, you should be a little more firm on the ground. So I think we had planned things in a manner you wanted to show the documentary of the short documentary on Samya. Uh, couldn't happen, but let's just hope and let's just be very sure that it happens in some time. I would like to congratulate the Samya, the entire group of people associated with Samya, including the parents, as well as all the patrons, as well as all the advisory council members, that you have taken up this entire process of creating awareness on a timely basis with regards to this field wherein it is so much required to be done on an everyday basis. So I'm very, very thankful, as well as I congratulate the entire team. And the topic that has been given to me today is Scope of Inclusive Education in National Education Policy 2020. Now, before...
Ma'am, if you could just allow me few seconds in
Yeah,
between.
sure.
Yeah, along with that, I would also like to thank our other advisory board members who have taken their time to be a part of this program today. Dr. Jemsi Jose is there with us, Dr. Jayanta Roy, Mahua Ghosh and Rashmi Mantri ma'am are already there. Rituparna ma'am always is there. And I'm so happy today, you know, that you all have taken out time to be there with us today for this cause. And Dr. Animita Shaha has sent her wishes from all the way from Charlotte, North Carolina in our advisory board. You will get to see that in our About Us page. And Ms. Bandhana Katoch, our founder trustee from California, she's also with us. Yes, over to you, ma'am. Thank you so much for doing this for us today, ma'am. Yes.
Thank you. And just to not give you a shock, but tell you that I'm trying to share screen, but then it isn't happening and I can see on the screen an error code. So is it because this is not being allowed by the portal from where we are doing it?
Arunashish Babu, kindly help us because
even if the screen is not shared and I'm not able to show my PowerPoint presentation, I would start, and as I backup, I had sent my PPT to you.
Yeah, I'm
so
trying to.
As and when you can get into it, so that I don't waste time.
Sure,
right?
sure. I'm starting it right now. I'm just checking it over my mail and sharing the screen if it is possible. Kindly start, ma'am. I'll try. I'm starting at the earliest to check my mail and find the PPT. Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, if the screen can be shared, that would be great. Okay, so let us actually begin with the whole idea of inclusive education. The purpose for this particular webinar is, at the onset, let me clear, is to create awareness. And this time I have taken as a backdrop, the backdrop is national education policy. Now, this is not the first policy that is actually thinking in lines of inclusive education. Inclusive education, the term in itself, has been redefined over the years through different laws and policies. So therefore, when we are referring to this document, it is important that we stick to facts, as well as we have a comparative idea and analysis as to what has been done in the past, how far it has been achieved, and what needs to be done in the future. Because until and unless we don't know from where we are, from where the journey has started, then in the present, what kind of changes are required, what kind of critique is to be done in the case of this particular policy, it will not happen if we are not aware about the previous policies as well as the laws. So 2-3 things I would like to start. Number one, inclusive education, when we say, in this particular policy, time and again, they have mentioned the term equitable, just, pluralistic, education which is meant to cater to all groups, all the children. However, there are certain subtle differences. When we say inclusive education, it is not just related to children who are falling under the disability criteria. No. It has become more exhaustive, it has become more expansive, and there's a reason and a rationale behind that. So we need to understand the rationale behind that. And in order to understand the rationale, we have to understand the history behind this. So to begin with, let us understand, how does NEP define inclusive education? Two significant terms are used by NEP, and the two significant terms that are used are equitable and learning for all. Now, both are viewed as the single greatest tool for achieving social justice and equality. We are heading towards an education system wherein the prima facie importance is being given to establishing social justice and equality. Now, we cannot have a society based on the notions of equality until and unless the education framework is also blended in that format. Now, here, very important part is that there are two acts which we need to keep in mind. Is there any problem?
No, ma'am, we are trying. Sorry, it got unmuted. I'm trying to share your screen, the PowerPoint.
Okay, not an issue.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll continue. Okay. So when we are referring to the inclusive education as defined in NEP, am I there? Okay, I think you're sharing the screen.
I'm trying to share the screen. Ma'am, could you try it one more time? Because I think that is enabled for you, that you
Okay,
could
it
share
was
your
not
screen,
enabled
because I
for
really
me.
don't want.
Okay,
Yeah,
let me
I
just
don't
try.
know. But, kindly check once.
I'm doing
because,
that. I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Is my screen visible?
You are visible, but not the screen.
Okay. No, it's the which is being shown over here.
It's not showing. So may I just share the screen? If you could pause for a minute, ma'am, and I can bring your screen on the. Is your screen being seen? The PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes, I can see it. Yes.
You
Yes.
can see it, no?
Yes, I
So
can see it.
yeah. So would you prefer the PowerPoint to be there, ma'am, or would you like to talk and then
Yes.
show the PowerPoint?
I would like to do it simultaneously.
Okay. So just let me know when to change the screen, and I will keep doing it.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you.
Okay. Sorry for the disturbance. Sorry.
Not a problem. That's not a problem at all.
Yeah. Please continue, ma'am.
Is the screen visible to everybody?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes.
Yes, the
Okay.
screen is visible.
Okay, so can we go to the first slide? Yeah. Okay. So as you all can see that we all have, by now, I think the group of people who are participating in this, who are a part of this, are very well aware that the policy in itself is very revolutionary when it comes to its projection of how it wants to take ahead the entire educational framework. The key points are about respect for diversity, the local context. Again and again, the word equitable, equity, and inclusion has been included in various chapters of the policy. The community participation has been given a lot of importance, use of technology, emphasis on under conceptual understanding rather than rote learning, and then also focusing on not just children who are falling under the entire periphery of disadvantage, but also those children who are gifted, who are also very brilliant academically, and they should not be lost in the whole process of a homogeneous kind of an education, which does not allow talents to thrive and somehow stifles them in a rudimentary compartmentalized education. Apart from that, focusing on creative thinking, critical thinking, creativity, and the assessment pattern is obviously going to be more refined, more, I would say, more pupil friendly, more student friendly. And with these key principles, the inclusive education, as I was speaking in the beginning itself, it has been redefined. So can we go to the next slide? The next slide, please. Any difficulty? Am I audible?
You are audible, ma'am, but I am not being able to move to the next slide. That is
Okay, no problem. Let's just continue.
you continue, ma'am. I'm trying to get to
Okay, not an issue at all. Uh, as I said, let's go back again into the history behind it. Inclusive education, when it comes to NEP, they have tried to blend in two very prominent acts of our country. Now, the two prominent acts are RPWD Act, which is the Rights of Persons with Disability, as well as the act which is Right to Education. Now, here there is a little bit of knowledge that is required, that both the acts have defined inclusive education in two different aspects. When it comes to RTE is focusing on inclusive education as a means of creating social justice and education for
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, is ma'am, you are not audible. Hello? Angela Semi Mondol or Anonna Jana, kindly get back.
Yes.
So
রেশমি
is
ম্যাম স্ক্রিন ইজ ফ্রিজ করে গেছে আর আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি স্ক্রিন।
okay, but slide দেখা যাচ্ছে inclusive
হ্যাঁ
education
স্লাইড দেখা যাচ্ছে,
as defined in NEP 2020. Okay.
রাইট
So
দেখা যাচ্ছে।
Rashmi ma'am, we are not being able to hear you. Actually, I cannot have the view, so that's why I can see only the PowerPoint. That's why I'm asking you all to get back.
রেশমি ম্যামের স্ক্রিন ফ্রিজ করে গেছে।
Acha, just check if if anyone is in the waiting room or if she is logged out or then again logged in, something like that.
No one is in waiting room, I'm checking.
This is such a good discussion and so many interruptions. I really feel so bad and sorry about it. Just wait, I'm trying to get her on call. Hello. Yeah, Rashmi ma'am, somehow she got logged out. So she's joining in again. I would request again a feedback. Is the screen
I
visible?
think I'm visible now.
Yeah.
Am I?
Yes.
Yes, you are
Yes.
visible, ma'am. Yes.
Yes, we can see
And-
Reshmi ma'am.
Thank
the
you. Thank you.
And the
And the
screen,
screen
is
as
visible?
well.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay. So everything is restored?
Yes.
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 Yeah. So clearly, this is a very exhaustive definition of inclusive education. Now let's go back to the next slide, please. If you're able to see or show the next slide. Otherwise, I'll just introduce to people. Yeah, the next slide, please. Yeah. Before the National Education Policy 2020, there was another almost 34 years ago, 1986, which is the National Education Policy 1986, had also mentioned about the education of children with special needs. But the difference over there was that since NEP 2020 has made a broad categorization, it does only, when it says inclusive education, it is not only referring to children with special needs, it is not only referring to children who have got disabilities, but it is referring to a wide array of population, which comes down to 80%, in fact, more than 80% of our country's population. Now,
is the screen visible, ma'am? Sorry for the interruption. The
Yes.
socio-economic demography. Is
the
this the
before
slide?
This, please. The slide before this, please.
Okay. Okay. Actually, every time I'm going to one slide, I have to stop sharing and again go back. I don't know why. Because previously I have done so many screen shares and you have done too, but this has never happened. So
Might be it's because it's a borrowed spectrum. Is it because of that? Perhaps might be.
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
But we are trying. So which is the slide you are asking for? This one, the focus on socioeconomically disadvantaged
The
group?
one which is before that.
The inclusive education as defined in National Education Policy?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
sure. Oops, sorry.
Okay, I think leave it.
Yeah,
Ma'am, leave it.
yeah.
I'll just continue.
Sure,
Okay.
sure. I don't
Yeah.
want to interrupt the flow.
Yeah. Thank you. So can I continue? Yes.
Yes, please continue, please.
Yeah, thank you. So when it comes to the National Policy on Education 1986, there was an exclusive chapter titled Education of Handicapped. Now I'm talking of an era which is 1986, almost 34 years in the past. At that time, obviously awareness level was very low, and therefore even the nomenclature hadn't changed. So instead of calling it inclusive education, the policy had mentioned education of the handicapped. And the focus was primarily more on accessibility and equity, and there was less emphasis on the quality of education. Now, why was this so? Because at that time, the condition was such that the scenario of education for the handicapped was even less than 5%, and it was immediate requirement. And to quote from the particular policy, I would say it required a war footing effort, because the coverage of education for the children who were under the disability sector was even less than 5%. Therefore, it became all the more important for them in that particular policy to mention that the universalization of primary education is a must, and is a must for children with needs, special needs, along with other children. And it was supposed to be achieved by 1990 for the age group 6 to 11 years, and 1995 for the age group 6 to 14 years. However, we are still, I would say, a long way behind that, because it hasn't been achieved so far. But one good thing about that particular policy, I would say, is the extensive data that they have collected about the status of the disabled population. Now, the present NEP 2020 is categorizing the disability in a broad spectrum with all the other areas as well, which I'm going to highlight in the next slide, or in which I'm going to explain, which is the broad categorization is on the basis of socio-economically disadvantaged groups, which means gender identities are a part of it, particularly female and transgender individuals, socio-cultural identities such as scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, OBCs, and minorities, geographical identities, students from villages, small towns, and aspirational districts. Disabilities are included, including learning disabilities, and socio-economic conditions, which include children of the migrant workers, low-income households, children in vulnerable situations, victims of or children or victims of trafficking, orphans, including child beggars in urban areas, and the urban poor. Clearly, if you see, then this entire focus in NEP 2020 is on more than 80% of our population. And therefore, this rationale of inclusive education is now no more just restricted to disabilities, but it also includes a very broad spectrum. Now, why is it done so? There is a lot of debate. There is a lot of debate wherein people say that wherein people are referring that why is it that the constitutional categories have been merged together? Why is this one basket being created for all these different kinds of groups and identities? There's a reason behind that. The reason behind that is very simple, that these identities, they are forming 80% of our population. And if this 80% of the population does not receive quality education, then it is a criminal, I would say, an injustice being done to them, because it would mean that we haven't made use of our human resource to its optimum level. Therefore, at the onset, inclusive education, the entire definition is now known. It is also, am I audible? Am I clearly audible? Because my internet shows weak connection.
Yeah, you
Yes,
were,
ma'am.
yeah.
Am I clearly audible? Yeah?
Yes, you are clearly audible, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So I continue. As I said, that the focus on socioeconomically disadvantaged group, it's a very broad spectrum. And now when we refer to inclusive education as per the NEP 2020, which is based on gender identities, socio-cultural identities, geographical identities, disabilities, including learning disabilities, and the socio-economic conditions. Now, the rationale behind this was actually based on the UNESCO database on inequalities in education. Now, in a country like India, unfortunately, the most important determinant of education till date is wealth. Yes, wealth remains a great determinant of educational opportunity in a country like India, because irrespective of how progressive the state is, I'll just give you some data. That we know that Kerala has 87% literacy rate. Orissa has 74% literacy rate. However, only 5 to 6% of the poorest in both the states are able to finish high school. Therefore, in a country wherein wealth remains a great determinant of educational opportunities, it is very important that there is equitable and inclusive education for all. And it is important to include all these categories when we refer to inclusive education. That is the rationale behind broadening the spectrum of inclusive education. And it is also important because understand that the 80% of population, for which a major part of is under the, you can say, under the difficult socio-economic conditions, a large part of disabilities also occur over there for various reasons. So in that case, how can we just compartmentalize and consider that this is like blurring the constitutional categories? Instead of categorization, it is time we take all together, and this would be the true spirit of inclusive education. So to give you more facts, when it comes to disabled population, the disabled children, they rarely progress, and these are again facts from the UNESCO report, which is based on inequalities in education. Disabled children in India rarely progress beyond primary school, and only 9% complete secondary education. Around 45% of disabled people are illiterate, and only 62.9% of disabled people between the age group of 3 and 35 have ever been to a school or a regular school. And specific disability categories and genders are affected, and for instance, children with autism and cerebral palsy and girls with disabilities are least likely to be enrolled in schools. Disability is most likely to inhibit a child's access to preschool and primary education. We are talking about facts because opinions are free, facts are sacred. These are all data, facts available in the public domain, and it's time that we open up to it. Apart from this, less than 40% of school buildings have ramps, and around 70% of schools do not, only 70% of schools have accessible toilets. All the technology is a key focus in NEP, but 59% of schools across the country have, only 59% have access to electricity. So we are talking about this grim reality. And under such grim reality, we have to understand that we have to bring about a change as a society, as a community, and hence NEP is insisting on a lot on community participation. Therefore, it is imperative that instead of just thinking about my child or your child or someone or a particular child, when we talk about inclusive education, we have to keep the entire paradigm. We have to keep the entire the understanding of the large amount of population that is affected by the inequalities in our education system. And wealth cannot be a determinant of education in a country where we have the youngest population. As per the World Bank, in 2014, India is the youngest nation because a major part of Indian population is so young, and it is a dividend that if we do not cash on it, if we do not give them a proper education, then it's a criminal injustice, and we are undermining human resource to a level which cannot be compensated in the future. Now, having said that, let us see how NEP, and there are 6 steps, and I wish if we could show the slide, if it is possible, the
Yes,
6
ma'am.
steps supporting children with special needs.
Ma'am, could you tell us the number of the slide? Because Bhavna Child Development Center, they are managing the screen now, the PPT. So Mr. Arunashi Shodhikari sir is there.
It
So
is
which,
slide number 7. It is slide 7.
yes, Arunashish Babu, it's slide number 7, please. Just confirm if it's the right slide. Now people are giving feedbacks. They can see the screen and they can see you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm so happy. Yeah,
I
thank
hope
you.
I
Please
reach out to
continue.
people. That is more important. More than seeing me, I think they should be
Yes.
able to hear me.
Yes, the YouTube, that's why we are archiving it on YouTube. So
Yes.
so
Thank
sorry
you.
about the technical glitches today. Yeah.
No problem, ma'am. Let us also understand that, as I was referring to, the gross level of inequality that is existing in our education system, and I gave a lot of data, and I don't know how much of it was being able to, reach across to you people. But the latest evaluation undertaken by Delhi Child Right Commission has said, and this is Delhi, the capital of the country. As much as 60% of schools reported 0 students with disabilities. And I'm talking about Delhi. That 60% of schools reported 0 students with disabilities. And another 28% reported less than 1%. Now, I think it only goes on to highlight that people with disabilities are said to experience adverse socio-economic outcomes than persons without disabilities. And therefore, it is imperative that this broad spectrum, this very, very detailed spectrum of putting inclusive education in this manner, wherein it is covering 80%, more than 80% of the population, is highlighted. Supporting children with special needs, the 6 pointers that are formulated by the NEP is, first of all, enabling mechanisms. Obviously, regular schooling. Now here I'm going to go into details with regards to some of the aspects which may be confusing for everybody because of the way it has been projected. Because I wouldn't say it's a perfect policy. No, it isn't. No policy is perfect. A policy is as good as its implementation. And a policy has to be intact with the law, as well as not just with the law, but with the realities of implementation. So, when it comes to regular schooling, the children with special needs will be integrated in the regular schooling process from elementary to higher education levels, as mentioned. There will be assistive devices and orientation to parents. Modules, NIOS there is a provision that NIOS will be expanded, and even modules for classes 3, 5 and 8 will also be developed, along with a lot of focus on vocational education. There were many questions asked to me on this aspect, so I will elaborate later. And I am also seeing the time, so I will be going a little fast right now. And when
Please continue. Your discussion is most important to us. So don't think about the time, because the questions that has been posted by the parents have already been forwarded to you, and we know that you are going to address to them, and I am encouraging them to post questions. So please continue at your own pace. The discussion is of prime importance.
Okay, thank you. So as I said, that when it comes to another aspect, which is alternative schools, now understand one thing here. There is a dichotomy, and it's a very subtle dilemma. It's a very subtle, reading between the lines that we have to do in some of the provisions or in some of the recommendations made in the policy, and which I am going to elaborate, and I'm going to present a critique on the same. And when I do that, I'm not doing it as per, please understand, I'm stating the facts. I'm trying to quote the researchers, I'm trying to quote those aspects which are in the public domain, and that is how we should be arriving at an understanding. This is apolitical, this is not to do with any particular government setup, and any policy that comes has to go through its process of, going through its process of lawmakers and the implementation. Therefore, it is important as citizens that we are aware of it and that we are able to understand it, as well as bring about positive and corrective changes wherein required and fill in the gaps. So, apart from that, there are certificate courses for pre-service and in-service teachers. So, if we could go to the next slide, please. Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. Yes.
The next slide visible?
Yes. But I think I am having an internet issue here. Hello?
No, we can hear you clearly.
You can?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So NEP 2020 in sync with law, as I said, that any policy is as good as its implementation. So let's have one kudos to the fact that when it comes to the children with special needs, when it comes to the children falling, or the students falling in the category of disabilities, the one thing that goes in our favor, and it is like a victory sign for us, is that it is in recognition of the 2016 Rights of Persons with Disability Act. This is very important. Why? Because when a law ratifies a policy, then the policy will be functional, and it has to be, then there is an affirmation that it can be and it will be implemented, provided the law is implemented. Now the question is the law also completely implemented? Is Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2016, is it being completely implemented? Yes, we have, as I said, the hope, as I believe, always hope against hope, that the policy has been ratified. The policy is underpinned by the legal aspect, which is the RPWD Act. But is RPWD Act being completely followed, implemented, or not? That is also a question we need to ask. And NEP asserts that children with disabilities will have opportunities for equal participation across the educational system, and there will be non-discrimination in schools. I received a question in the afternoon. There were some questions asked by a few of the participants about elimination and discrimination in schools. No, as per the law, there cannot be discrimination in schools. And if it is so, then you have the you have the legal you have the legal provision of taking the due actions. Accessible infrastructure is to be provided, reasonable accommodations, individualized supports, and obviously assistive devices and use of Braille and Indian Sign Language. And look at this very important point, which is the last point, that recruitment of special educators with cross disability. What does that mean? That it will be multiple disabilities training, and it will incorporate disability awareness within teacher education, which means the B.Ed, the integrated B.Ed course will have a compulsory paper which will be explaining, and which will also allow teachers who are general subject teachers to be knowing about learning disabilities, to be able to identify learning disabilities in a particular classroom, so that they are able to provide the holistic development to the children by making changes in their pedagogy. Hello, am I there?
Very nicely.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
yes.
you. Thank you. The system just seems to be getting hung in a while, so that's why I have to. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so now when it comes to the school, when it comes to the implication of the NEP for children with disabilities, there are 4 factors that I would like to highlight on. And now this is the most crucial part of the discussion, wherein I would want everybody to be, focusing on these key issues, these key pointers that are there in the policy as well. Number one is school choice. Now, there is a lack of coherence here between the 2009 Right to Education Act and the RPWD Act on the educational options for children with disabilities. It has been, and this is actually a major bone of contention. This is a major point of contention because in the 2012 RTE amendment, there was provisions for children with disabilities to be enrolled in neighborhood schools, which means that it was important that there should be schools within a kilometer, within a particular location, within a particular domicile, wherein all children will have access to education. And even when it comes to when it came to the education of children with special need, they recognize a separate category. As well as with children with severe disabilities, it was suggested that they could opt for home-based education. Now, RPWD Act recognized the rights of children with benchmark in disabilities to enroll in either neighborhood schools or special schools of their choice. Thus, while the RTE is silent on the issue of special schools, RPWD does not say anything about homeschooling or about home-based education. Now, NEP has tried to attempt a middle path, which means that it is also saying that there will be alternate mode of education. There will be, there will be rationalization of schools, which means there will be mergers of schools in a particular domicile. And they are doing it with their own understanding because they want to remove the irregularities of the infrastructure and the quality. But however, having said that, there is again a question that in the process of rationalization, are we taking away the accessibility factor? Are we taking away the fact that some of these students or these particular population, they come from a strata where then they may not be able to reach out to a far off school? So the whole idea that NEP has left it open and it has kept all the options open. It has followed the middle path. What is the middle path? Which is, it is saying that they can attempt to go for neighborhood schools, they can go for special schools, they can also go for home-based education as options for education of children with disabilities. But the question is, who will define or what are the criteria on which the home-based education will be based on? There is a particular option in the, am I there?
Yes, you are.
But I'm not able to see anything on the screen.
Okay.
But we can see you along with the screen sharing.
But I'm just not able to see anything. It's just blank.
Okay. I don't know what is happening, but we can see you and we can see the slide also, ma'am.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to be like, shooting in the blind. So I'll be doing that. Bear with me because for me, I am feeling absolutely disconnected because I see absolutely nothing on my screen. So I'm going to continue, okay? And if at all I am not audible, somebody has to call me to tell me that I'm not in contact or the connection is lost.
Of course. I will get in touch with you as soon as something like that happens.
Okay, thank you very
Today
much.
we are all experiencing so many challenges that we are living those disabilities and how the people we are talking for, they live it every moment. That is what just comes to my mind, right?
And it just makes me feel that how it must be for somebody to be shooting in the blind, because right now I'm doing just that, and for me everything, I cannot see anyone and I cannot see anything on the screen, but I am just speaking. So it's a different experience for me, a little surreal, I would say, but then I think this is what teaches us in life, right? So as I was referring to the status of home-based education. Now, the status of home-based education, as I was, there are many questions. Now, first of all, who decides what will be the who decides who will be the trained people who will be providing the home-based education. Now, home-based schooling is something which is actually not allowed in many countries, and this is a cascade model which was followed many years ago. Many countries warn against the use of home-based schooling because it only leads to further segregation. Also, who will ascertain the quality of home-based education? Who is going to provide the trained personals, the trained educators for the home-based education? All these key points are not structurally explained in the policy. But yes, they have left it open that as the as the RPWD and RTE both have had different opinions, there was a point of contention. So NEP has merged both and has kept it open that there will be regular school, you can go for alternate school, you can go for home-based education, and they have also said that they will be creating special educational zones. Now, this is again something which is very unclear prima facie in the policy itself. Because when you say you are referring to or you are going to create special educational zones, then what will be the criteria of creating those zones? On what basis those zones will be created? And that has not been specified. Moreover, when you are creating those particular zones, you are in a way, and not just that, even the teachers who will be teaching in those zones will be trained on a different course, on a different certification course for teaching in those special educational zones. Now, this again puts a very big question mark on the whole idea of inclusivity. It's somewhere borders on exclusivity. I found this particular point to be something which should be left open for all of us to ponder and understand, that is the creation of special educational zones truly going to serve the purpose of inclusion? Because you are referring to, when you are referring to inclusive education in NEP, you are referring to education of more than 80% of the population. So do you expect that more than 80% of the population will be studying in special educational zones? Then how will that lead to equity and will lead to social justice, wherein you are creating segregation? So this is again something which is an important point which I would want each one of you all to ponder upon. Next, the next point is, as I was referring, governance of special schools. Now, this is something which is again a very, it's topic that we need to understand, that special schools that are there, they are a necessity, no doubts about it. But when it comes to their standardization, there has to be certain rules. So on that case, this is one thing which is still not clear in the NEP. Because in accordance with the RPWD Act, the NEP has included special schools as an option for children with benchmark disabilities. But when it comes to the newly renamed Ministry of Education, who will regulate these special schools as regular schools, or whether they will continue to fall under the ambit of the Ministry of Social Justice and Welfare, and not recognizing the special schools will also be difficult for children with disabilities, because there are no clear guidelines then. And the quality will then suffer. The quality, the curriculum, the certification, or the infrastructure will also be at stake. So again, the question is, who is going to govern the standardization of the special schools? And who is, and there hasn't been any clarity over there as well. Also, as I said, that when I was referring to NEP 1986, I really found that there were elaborate chapters, and the chapters were having more details with regards to the governance, with regards to the process that will be included in the governance of the special schools. But all of this is missing in NEP. So again, it reinforces the idea of parallel segregated school systems for some instead of a common schooling system. Now, if we all know about the Kothari Commission, which is the Education Commission, the most important commission, wherein the concept of a common school system was brought about. But the common school system, which would have been much more adept at creating an inclusive society. But instead, over here, what we understand or what we see is that special schools for benchmark disabilities, but without any clear understanding or guideline about the standardization, about the curriculum, about the infrastructure isn't there. Home-based education has been referred, but then there is no clarity as to what will be the criteria, how will it be conducted. So these are the questions that we need to ask, because we are not just referring to some children who can actually take admission in a regular school and can go ahead with the curriculum, or can go ahead with the CBSE and the ICSE with a little more accommodation. When I am referring to inclusive education, when we are referring to inclusive education, we are referring to a very big group which has got disabilities ranging from mild to profound. And in such case, there should have been more clarity and more elaboration on the structure that would be followed, which is not clearly specified. When it comes to the third point, which is introduction of the school complex. Now, again, as I said, that they are referring to alternate form of schools, perhaps even a school where the schools will be merged together. There will be a school with one particular teacher. There will be schools which will have, there will be schools in a particular radius wherein 2-3 schools will be merged together, and they will be having better infrastructure. But as I said, rationalization doesn't work in a country wherein you have so many socioeconomic differences, and it will only lead to further lack of accessibility to a major group of population. Therefore, it is all the more important for us to look at these aspects and question, because these questions are not answered. So let me go to the next slide, and I hope I'm still there with you people. Am I?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. And let's go to the second part, which is very important.
Ashish
Any
Babu,
education.
kindly get to the next slide, please.
Yeah, so then any education is not possible without effective, the human resource, which is most important, without effective teaching, without teachers and special educators. Now, it clearly addresses that there has to be enrollment, there has to be recruitment of special educators in all the schools. Yes, and it is again also there in the law, that is in RPWD Act. However, we have a wide gap when it comes to the reality of implementation in our surroundings, in our locality, in our city, in our country. So that is again a very important aspect. The NEP addresses several aspects of teacher education. When it comes to preparation, they have given, in fact, 2 to 3 chapters exclusively on teacher education, not only in the early childhood care education, but also in the higher education. And they have clearly specified that inclusive education and a mandatory aspect of understanding the different disabilities, especially learning disabilities. I believe for general education, for the general B.Ed course, they have kept learning disabilities, and they have somewhere not included all the major disabilities or the cross disabilities, multiple disabilities, perhaps because of the fact that it is understandable, or it is somewhere assumed that most schools will have students with learning disabilities. But what about the intellectual? What about the intellectual disabilities? What about autism? What about certain other disabilities which are so much prevalent? So again, I think there could have been a more exhaustive a guideline with regards to this aspect. And these include short-term specialization courses also, which can be done during the service period and in-service trainings as well to teach children with disabilities so that they can prepare modules. And also teachers will be trained to recognize and identify disabilities, but only learning disabilities, which means the plan is such that even a regular teacher in her own classroom will be able to take the tool of learning disabilities, which is over here dyslexia, and will be able to assess or identify students who are facing reading and writing difficulties. Major problem here is the regular teachers are unaware of the policy provisions. And even if they are aware, the condition is such, most of the time we know what is the situation of teachers in our country. Apart from the work that we are doing when it comes to the pedagogical intervention, there are other also non-teaching work that has to be done. Yes, the NEP policy also mentions that there will be significant reduction in the direction of non-teaching jobs being attributed to teachers all across when it comes to Kendriya Vidyalayas or when it comes to the government schools, so that they are able to focus mostly on teaching. However, the status of special educators in our country is again a very grim reality which we need to come to terms with. Most of them are not even on the payroll, and very few schools, I would say, very few schools are actually in recruiting special educators on a regular job profile. They are mostly on contractual basis. Most schools don't even acknowledge the difference between special educators and counselors. So this is the level, again, it comes down to the question that there hasn't been clear indicators as to how this particular problems will be dealt with, which means the affirmative aspect. The affirmative aspect of the policy is something which we need to understand and which we need to discuss about. So going back to the next point, which is again very important, which is about, I think we can go to the next slide, friends. Yes. Am I there?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Ma'am, you are
Yes.
there. In fact, I myself also cannot see the PowerPoint slides being changed, but I just spoke to Mr. Arunashish Adhikari, who is helping us, and he
Actually,
has
in my
changed the
case, I'm
slides.
not able to see anything, as in it's
I
just
understand.
blank.
I understand.
Yeah.
So, yes, Arunashish Babu, if you could go to the next slide, please. And ma'am, you are clearly audible and we can see you. And the slide also. I can't see the change in slides. So I'm stuck there, but I'm hearing you and really loved the points that you're sharing, because we always keep talking about that schools do not recognize differences between counselors and special educators and a lot
Yes.
of other things. So yes, we would like to hear you more. I
Yeah.
didn't want to comment too much.
Let's go to the next point, which is again a very important point, which is implication of the NEP for children with disabilities with regards to standardized assessments, the curriculum, as well as the target-based reforms. Now, here, a point that I would like to mention is that the NEP emphasizes achievement of foundational literacy and numeracy. So in the first chapter itself, we know that the NEP has made a very, what should I say, a very strong, ambitious aim of being able to achieve the FLN, which is the foundational literacy and numeracy for all children by grade 3 by the year 2025. This is the target. Now, this target is very good. It is almost like the sales target of, the multinational companies that we have. Yes, it is a very good target. But then this target has a lot of areas that need to be looked into. Now, if you look at the annual survey of education report, which is the SR, it does not collect data from children with disabilities. So this is again, which is a little against the whole aspect, because it is emphasizing achievement of foundational literacy. However, the push towards this national mission of achieving this particular goal by 2025 has got major gaps. So gap number one is that if you want to achieve this, how is it possible that there will be so many different kinds of students who will be having disabilities? How will they be achieving it as per the parameters that are being suggested or that are being asked for? Which is again something which we need to look into. Why? Because this particular mission, which is finding that, and it is based actually on the study found by ASER, which is Annual Survey of Education report, which has found consistently that children across the country are unable to read grade level texts. And basis this particular findings, which does not include the data taken from children with disabilities. Why? Because there was no time and resource constraints. So on that basis, this particular goal has been set up. However, the National Assessment Survey 2017 conducted by the State-run National Council, which is NCERT, it describes growing learning crisis. It describes growing learning crisis wherein children are enrolled in schools, but they have not attained foundational literacy or numeracy. However, it is important that we understand that this particular underreporting of disability is a major area of concern. The NEP only refers to learning disability in this context of training teachers to identify disabilities. It is ignoring other cognitive disabilities, again, as intellectual disabilities and autism. Now, this policy states that curricular changes will be made in consultation with national institutes under the Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities. This is a positive step if it ensures that issues of accessibilities and inclusion are not viewed as problems to solve for. Rather, disabled children need to, or rather, instead of thinking that they need to adjust or fit to the curriculum needs to fit to them. Means of engagement and assessment and representation of knowledge be allowed in their case. And that is how this particular standardized assessments, curricula and targets-based reforms will be actually functional in reality. Otherwise, this will just become a goal which will have no basis, and a goal which will be a utopian goal which will never see the light of reality. Therefore, when it comes to, and also, what about those children who do not have any kind of disabilities, but because of the environmental factors, they have not been able to achieve the functional literacy and numeracy? So will they be reported as disabled? Will they be will they be coming under the category of learning disabled? Again, that is an area which needs to be looked into. So it is good to have such kind of target-based reforms, but then the target-based reforms need to have guidelines and structured implementations before it becomes a utopian principle which does not see the light of reality. Now, the NEP also emphasizes on standard-based learning outcomes over inputs, which means that, again, the National Assessment Center, which is, they are trying to create, can we go to the next slide, please? Am I there with you all?
Yes, ma'am, you are there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So if you all can see, the NEP is emphasizing on Parak. Now, what is Parak? I will go to the next slide. And
the next slide, yes, it's there.
Yes.
The next slide is there.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what is Parak. Now, the National Assessment Center, Parak, which means to test or evaluate students, will be assessed at grade 3, 5, and 8. And examinations for grade 3 will be crucial in determining the success of this goal. Which goal? The functional literacy and numeracy. Now, Parak will also be a part of school accountability and standards, such that all schools will make their assessment data publicly available. Now, the question is, until Parak is established, who will do this? This will be done by the national, the national achievement, the National Assessment Center, which is NAC. Now, this further marginalizes children with intellectual disabilities and other cognitive disabilities who do not find a place. It is also unclear how the National Testing Agency will conduct aptitude tests for college admissions and pre-service teacher education. How these will be made accessible to children with different disabilities, not very clear. But one good thing about Parak, which I will tell you, is that they are trying to ensure assessment guidelines. But before Parak comes into picture, there will be a huge gap. And this gap needs to be filled in. Because Parak is clearly stating that it will ensure accessible guidelines for children with learning disabilities, which is a good thing. In fact, it will also create the guidelines for teachers to be able to identify learning disabilities. But why only learning disabilities? There are other disabilities also we need to focus on. Therefore, it is imperative to understand what is there for me in this policy, what are the gaps in this policy. And as I said, that this particular process may be a little dangerous, that children unable to achieve the foundational literacy and numeracy at grade 3 may be labeled as learning disabled, or they may be placed in a special setup. So this particular tension which is there between achievement and inclusion, as a result of, whatever is the market design over here, or the model that they are taking forward, such testing regimes need to be debated upon. Because in order to raise your academic standards, you cannot be perpetuating inequities again into the society between children who are viewed as academically successful and those who are not. That's again something which we cannot be doing it. So this is one aspect which we again need to understand, think and ponder about. Now let's go to the next slide, which is about the terminological confusion and the real world implications. Is everybody able to see the next slide?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now, this is interesting because educational policies, now see, the term, when I was going through this entire policy, I found that the NEP has used the terms integration, inclusion, and you can say disabilities, divyang, various terms, rehabilitation, and other things in a very rhetoric manner. When it comes to using integration and inclusion, you have to understand the subtle difference between the two words. It cannot be used interchangeably, because if you're using it interchangeably, it shows the incoherence of your understanding. It shows the incoherence in the understanding. So the educational policies in India have historically adopted the term inclusion and integration interchangeably, and even NEP is replete with that. It is using inclusion, integration, mitigation, rehabilitation, and the terms disability, divyang, children with special needs, and differently abled. Now see, the problem is not with the language. We know the difference between integration and inclusion. Integration means wherein you want the child or you want the individual to fix themselves as per the curriculum, as per the infrastructure. They have to adapt themselves as per the resources available. But when we talk about inclusion, it is the other way around. It means there will be systemic changes, there will be ground level changes wherein the children will be wherein the children won't have to adapt, the system will adapt to itself to cater to the needs of the special, to cater to the needs of the sections or different sections of disabilities. So this one clarity of purpose is missing, and it is interchangeably being used wherever throughout the policy. If you go through it, if you read it, you will come across it. Now, this is one area which I felt, and instead of going at the nomenclature, why am I saying that why words should be taken here in an important context? Because when we are projecting our literature, as in this case the policy, it shows the clarity of the framework. But then if there is such incoherence in the usage of certain terminologies which are drastically different, then in that case, it puts a question mark on the coherence of ideas. Therefore, it is important for us to understand and again to recheck and look at this particular policy with a little critique, so that we are able to see the gaps. The pathway is created. It's no doubt, I'm not saying this policy has got lots and lots to offer. But as I said, every policy is as good at its implementation. And it has to be in sync with the law, as well as it has to be in sync with the ground realities of implementation. So in that case, if the pathway is full of potholes, then I need to make my way through the potholes by seeing the potholes. I cannot be jumping into the potholes to be getting out of it. So therefore, it is important for us to know about all this. Okay. Another thing which is something very important, and which I found in the major section was that till date, this particular, even in this policy, what is being shown is that when it comes to the education of the differently abled or the disabled population, it is an act of welfare. Why it is an act of welfare? It is a public service. It is actually not an act of welfare. It is about creating that that particular population, which if it is left out, then you are doing a significant damage to the human resource available. Instead of looking at it that way, we are looking at it from a perspective of welfare model, which means that, again, it understands that challenges of the people are because of structural constraints. No, it isn't. It can be because of individual limitations and shortcomings. So the attitude should be towards creating a more abled individuals who are able to come out and emerge as significant contributors to the society, rather than just fixing the points or fixing the infrastructure and that assuming that the changes would happen on its own. So instead of looking at the children or at the individuals as recipients of welfare, it is important to recognize disability as an identity, as a form of diversity rather than a deficit. And now, this is again a very important point, and again I'll share that India has ratified the UNCRPD, which is the United Nations Conventions for the Rights of Persons with Disability. Now, the UNCRPD, when India as a nation has ratified in 2007, yes, which means that it is going to provide quality education with dignity to its population with disability. Therefore, it becomes all the more imperative that this particular policy should have had that clear objectives while projecting, while specifying the guidelines, and instead of leaving the gaps in between or leaving the potholes unattended, there should have been more structured understanding of the same. Now, I was given a lot of questions when it came before the webinar. So I would like to go to the page of questions and answers. Can I go there? Is it visible, friends? Because I am just not able to see anyone.
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah.
Very well visible. Yes.
Okay.
The questions. Yes.
Yeah. So let me go one by one. Implementation in schools across all boards. Now, let me clarify this. There was a question that how will NEP, this policy, will it be implemented? And I'm going to refer to the question sent to me on my phone so that I will be able to do justice with it. So forgive me, I'm using this phone only to see the questions right now. Yes. So yes, what will be the anticipated time frame? That was the question asked to me. Again, there is a particular chapter. In fact, the last chapter of this policy is clearly mentioning the phased out manner in which the policy will be, in which the policy will come into functionality. So I'd like to share the next slide just to show that what is the time structure, the timelines for implementation in NEP. Is it visible to everybody?
Yes, the
Yes,
timeline.
yes.
Yes. And if you see, then this is not a year, or it will not be just 1 year or 2 year work. The last NEP, the last policy of education was in the year 1986, 34 years ago. And till date, I would say that there are many areas that we have not been able to achieve successfully completely. Therefore, even this is a long journey. And yes, it is a visionary policy which requires a little more understanding of the ground realities so that the implementation is not further delayed. As you can see the timeline given over here clearly, with regards to the how the teacher education will happen, how the formulation of the NCF, which is the National Curricular Framework, will happen in what years, 2021 to 22, that will be done. Then when it comes to the national professional standards for teacher by 22-23, when it comes to universal, as I said, 2025, they have kept the target based reform, which has its good side, but it also has certain areas which needs to be looked into, which is the how far it will be successful. It's a matter of time, but by 2025, the universal foundational literacy and numeracy needs to be achieved, and by 2035, the gross enrollment ratio, they want to achieve 100%. And also there are quite many clarifications with regards to many goals with regards to teacher education over here as well. The question specifically asked me that what about classes 10 and 12? So the next slide will give a very clear picture when will it happen in classes 10 and 12. Is the next slide visible? Is the next slide
Yes.
visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
the next
Okay.
slide is
So
visible.
as you can see that 22, 23, these changes, as you said, that when will what is the anticipated time frame, as in by which year NEP actually will impact CBSE. Now, one thing I want to say, when you are asking about NEP with regards to inclusive education and specifically with regards to the education of the children falling under the disability category, remember what is the first thing I said? That we have a victory sign here. The victory sign is that it is under the legal framework of RPWD Act 2016. So already CBSE is following the RPWD Act norms, and therefore it is going to follow it, and there will be no change in that. So there is nothing like that NEP is not going to, NEP is going to kind of, if NEP gives more changes, that is different. CBSE would include it. But at present, CBSE is following the RPWD Act and all its recommendations, concessions, and whatever exemptions that the children or the candidates falling under the RPWD category receive is as per the law. So I think this question is clearly stated. Now, what is the time frame anticipated in private schools and the ICSE board? Now, ICSE board is something which is more of a private board. So I would say it is not a statutory body. It does not fall under the direct domain of the it does not fall under the direct domain of the central government or the Ministry of HRD. So I will not be able to say whether they have followed the exact RPWD Act concessions. I think there are provisions there as well, and I have mentioned it in the BT B1 that there are provisions, but the level to which CBSE has done it and the structure in which CBSE has done it, I haven't seen any documents to that effect when it comes to ICSE. So therefore, it is a matter of time that actually the boards are supposed to be following it. CBSE is doing it because it comes under the domain of the central government, and it is a statutory board. So there is no way that it can get away without doing it. But when it comes to ICSE, I think it should be happening in a due course of time. Now let's go to the next question. There is a great emphasis on use of learning in mother tongue. Yes, there was this one question asked to me. Can we go to the slide number 15, please, which is on questions and answers? Please go to slide number 15. Is everybody there on slide number 15?
No, no, not yet. Orunashish Babu, could you please, yeah, points to ponder upon, that's the slide. Points to ponder upon. Ma'am? Ma'am, your screen has got frozen. So, are you being able to hear me? We were all hearing with rapt attention. So much to know. And it's really such a wonderful critical analysis of the entire NEP. Ma'am, we can't hear you. I'll just call Rashmi ma'am and check what if there is a problem. Please all stay tuned. Yeah, Rashmi Mantri ma'am, she got logged out again. She's joining in. It's getting connected. And today, if Ananya ma'am and Angelis ma'am could just in between while Rashmi ma'am is getting connected, may I talk to Mahua Ghosh ma'am, please, if she's there, and Rituparna ma'am both, because we had planned today that Mahua Ghosh ma'am and Rituparna ma'am would actually coordinate a question and answer session with Rashmi Mantri ma'am, but we had already posted the questions posted to us by parents and professionals to Rashmi Mantri ma'am, and I think she's been answering almost entirely, and no questions are unanswered according to me. So probably we will take new questions, but we will not go over the old questions through an interactive session. So I think me and Rituparna ma'am have already agreed on that, and Mahua Ghosh ma'am, just to inform you that, because our webinar is till 8 p.m. and we really are very happy to see the number of guests joining today, some really well-known people in the field of disability. Thanks to Dr. Sushma Nagarkar, our advisory board member, joining from all the way from Mumbai. And thanks to so many dignitaries in the field, Leena ma'am, Shomenda, and I see the professionals like Zahir sir, and many, and as my very dear friend Suja is there from Bangalore, and she's been very kind to share her very well-known blog space in our website. And as we wait for Rashmi Mantri ma'am to join back, I'm just kind of talking about these things which I wanted to share with you before, but today due to technical glitches it couldn't happen. Thank you, Anna ma'am, for being there, and you all have actually shown us the way how to move ahead. And Rita Chatterjee ma'am, and today Ruma Chaturvedi, she's joined from Kanpur, and what I would say that she's also doing great work in the field of special education and special needs. So what I would like to say is today so many people, Chandrima ma'am, Sutapa ma'am, they are all there. Today this is very important for us to understand. Many parents had been asking me that, is it for my child? Am I going to benefit from this webinar? But what I would always say is it is always important for us to know, even if it is not completely applicable for my child. But yes, if it is meant to be for my child, for children like my child, I am supposed to know about it. But yes, I do understand this is a thing which is more from a perspective of a policy. But these policies are so difficult to understand. I don't understand it myself. I'm challenged that way. So that's why I requested Rashmi ma'am to explain it for us. I'll check once more with Rashmi ma'am why if there's a problem with logging in. Kindly stay tuned. Yes, Rashmi ma'am is there. And to share with you all, this is a very emotional moment for me also, with Mahua Ghosh ma'am being there. You know, we had been all working together and we have connected over social media, so many names together. So this name of Building the Bridges was coined by her actually when we started Building the Bridges Part 1 in 2018. And she had told me that, you know, every time I went with my child to the doctor, to the therapist, to the counselors, they all always told me that we'll cross the bridge when it comes, but where is the bridge was not known to me. So I'm just unmuting Mahua ma'am for some time before Rashmi Mantri ma'am joins in. Yes, you are unmuted. Mahua,
Yes.
thank you for being there. Today we are not being able to have the interactive session with
It's
Rituparna
okay.
ma'am and
It's
Mahua ma'am
okay.
because
Okay.
yes, because
Because we are engrossed with what Rashmi ma'am has to share with us.
yes. So thank you so much for being there. So yes, so we are again going back to Rashmi ma'am. She said that her connection is getting restored. She's calling me. So
Yeah, I'm there. I'm there. Can I
okay,
get?
okay. Yes,
Can
ma'am.
you all
Please
see me
continue.
now?
Yes, we all can
Okay.
see you. Please continue. Please
Okay.
continue.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm so sorry.
No, no,
Uh,
that's fine.
yeah.
Yeah. Points to
But yeah,
ponder
I can
upon. That is where we are.
yeah.
Points to ponder upon.
Points to ponder upon. But before that, there was a major question on multilingualism.
Yes,
I would
yes.
just like to answer that question.
Sure.
Yeah. So the question was about yes, will the children be kind of forced to study more than one language, especially the ones who have got disabilities? The answer is no. Do not worry. They can stick to one language, and whatever provisions are there in RPWD Act, which means that they can actually opt for one language instead of the three language formula, it's very much going to be there. It will not change. So I think that kinds of answers question number 2. Yes. And number 3.
Ma'am. Yes. Yes.
Okay. What provisions are there regarding our children? CBSE board going to help? As I again said, I think this is again a question which is repeating itself. The change, okay, one thing I want to say, that because this policy is so visionary and it has offered in its own structure various things which are very positive, and if you look at those aspects when it comes to the flexibility of the curriculum, when it comes to that how vocational education will be introduced from classes 6 onwards, and this year itself, before actually NEP was published, CBSE has already launched, and that I can say on the point, for the point of view of CBSE, has already launched at the middle school level, senior level, and the senior secondary level a number of vocational courses for the students to follow. There are 9 courses in classes 6 to 8. 9 and 10 have got around, if I'm not wrong, 24. Let me just see, I have mentioned it here. 24 courses, and 11 and 12 have got 38 courses in totality in vocational education. So
38.
38,
38 is a
yes,
big number.
30,
Yeah.
yes, there are 38. And there was one question asked in the same question: is coding compulsory? No, it isn't. Nothing can be compulsory. Yes, coding is the language which children want to learn, and it is going to be the language of the future. But why would anything be made compulsory if it is not pertaining to my interest levels and if it isn't up to my level of achievement? It is not going to be compulsory. Yes, it is going to be there. For those who want to opt for it, will opt for it. But then there won't be such kind of strict regimentation that everybody has to do coding. This is nowhere kind of a rule like that. So please be rest assured. Question was, what is the role of performing arts, I would say, and sports in primary schooling? Here I would say there is specific guidelines, in fact, being followed from last year onwards in all the CBSE schools to have art integrated education, which means the education has to be more experiential. It has to include art, and art will not just be a separate subject, but it has to be included in various manners in our education, in the regular pedagogies as well of different subjects. So art integration would mean that doing whole school projects, and it is already there in place, and it is going to be also further enhanced and developed as and when the new circulars are issued for the same. There is a complete manual being published by CBSE on how to integrate art in education, and it is being followed. in different schools, and it is also being followed in most of the CBSE schools. Am I audible, people? Am I there with you all?
Yes, ma'am. You
Yes,
are there.
ma'am.
Okay, the next thing was about sports. Yes, one thing here, sports is going to play a major role, not like the earlier times, all work and, all work and no play. Sorry. Actually, it makes Jack and everyone very dull, and we can see it right now that we all have put on weight because of no physical activities. So right now, what I would say that health and physical fitness, as in physical education, HPE, is a very important part. In fact, a couple of years ago itself, CBSE had launched a full-fledged system of how to include HPE, which is health and physical education, in the entire school framework, as well as there is a section which is to do with community outreach, and that particular section is mostly a part of HPE. And children who are actually participating in sports, and those who want to participate in state level or in school level or in national level, they have been given the liberty that they can take their examinations later. There will be no force on them that they have to leave out their practice sessions or leave out their matches or their activities, or their competitions, because they have to go by the the structure of the curriculum or the structure of the academic calendar. For them, special provisions will be made. So it is already there in process and in functionality. Now, the next question that was asked to me was about vocational skills. I think I have answered this question about vocational skill, and NIOS also has been expanded to include more vocational skills lessons. Most importantly here is that Indian Sign Language, which is something very important, is being standardized. Here, one thing is a suggestion that why Indian Sign Language should only be for children with deafness or children with hearing impairment. If you really want inclusivity, then don't you think the sign language which has been standardized should be made to be learned by all the students? Then that is the true essence of inclusion. Why make it a subject specific to only the disability criteria? Why not make it a subject wherein even the neurotypicals would be learning the sign language? And that's how the communication barrier between a certain section can actually be erased. And that is how augmentative and alternative communication can also be enhanced to the next level. So I think this idea of vocational education and iOS training in Indian Sign Language should expand a little more, and that will really be a welcome idea for all the people to be able to relate to inclusive practices. Now, somebody asked that in BTB1 there was definite discussion that all boards will become one in the future. Will NEP help to expedite that? I'm sorry, I have not said anything like that. I have no idea about it. So if I think this must have been raised by someone else, but I have no understanding that how all boards will be merged, given the fact that we have a federal structure, and constitutionally we are a federal structure as a country. So we have state boards, we have different levels and tiers of education system. So merging everything will not be also in a diverse population like India. Merging everything under one board, how far will it be a practical solution? That is again something which is a research oriented topic, and it needs further elaboration, and I am not capable enough to comment on it at this point of time. And I had not mentioned this in the BTB one, so I don't think so I can comment on this as well. Okay. Yeah, then somebody asked that when it comes to admission tests, what are the clauses regarding the same? I mentioned about Parak, and I think I have explained over there that Parak is a good initiative. Perhaps it comes in time and it is not delayed. That Parak will be kind of creating creating the guidelines for assessing children with disabilities based on the parameters that will enable them to achieve And Parak, this particular work, which is not right now being proposed to be done by Parak, will be done by the National Assessment Center till it is established. Yes, so that is there. And when it comes to admission procedures in schools, every school has its own system. So it depends again, in the private sector from school to school. But ideally, there should be standardization, and therefore, if a system like Parak actually comes into functionality at the base level, then I think it will be good, and it will help a lot more inclusion to happen. Okay, another question was, does NEP provide to? Okay, there was a question about the age appropriateness. So, does NEP accommodate special needs children without asking age and age appropriate abilities, and do they get admission in schools, inclusive schools? Again, as I said, NEP has kept it open. You see, they are not just referring to regular schools. Please understand, the entire ambit of inclusive education is so broad. It is 80%, more than 80% of the population, and it is ranging from wide array of population. And therefore, even with benchmark disabilities, they have kept it open. You will have home-based, you can take home-based education. There can be alternate form of education, special schools, regular schools. They are even planning rationalization of schools. So therefore, only saying that mainstream schools, I really don't think that should be the goal. Yes, all mainstream schools are supposed to be inclusive. That is the law as per RPWD Act. That I can say. That NEP is right now as a policy, thanks to the fact that it is having the legal framework of RPWD Act, and it has clearly mentioned that it is in complete consonance with the RPWD Act. Therefore, it must give you a sense of relief that no school can deny admission on this basis. Even RTE also says the same thing, but RTE refers to social justice, and it refers to social justice, and it refers to education for all, which means that is why we had the entire change that came about, that 25% of the attendance, or 25% of the attendees would be belonging to the underprivileged or the socio-economically disadvantaged groups. So RTE was referring to that. RPWD Act is referring differently, but NEP is trying to incorporate everything. However, there are areas to be discussed there also when it comes to, as I said, the home-based education, when it comes to setting up special educational zones, when it comes to rationalization of schools. All of this is also something which we need to discuss. So I think this question is also answered, and nobody can eliminate a child because that child is not doing well. This was one case study question that was asked to me, which was about, it was more like a case study, a very personalized question asked by somebody, that if a particular child is having selective mutism and is low vision and is being asked to go for NCERT curriculum. So let me first of all explain to you that all CBSE schools are supposed to be following NCERT curriculum. So why there is even this notion that NCERT curriculum is beyond or is something which is low level? First of all, get rid of such kind of myths. All CBSE schools are supposed to be following
Ma'am, just to interrupt you, I had actually clarified the question with the parent who had sent it. So
Okay.
I told her the same thing, that all schools in the CBSE board are following the NCERT curriculum. So
Yes.
her point was, she said that the school itself is following a different curriculum and different set of books from those.
Now there is a market mechanism there. I'm
Yes.
sorry, I'm very
So that is why
we
she
know
said,
that what is it? There is an entire industry of publishing
yeah.
and book
So
and
yeah.
retail and all
So
that is there. So I don't want to get into it.
so no, ma'am, what she said is, when
Yeah.
she that is being taught to other students, chapters from those books, this child is being left behind and not being allowed to attend those classes. She's being kept on the books which are supposed to be simple as compared to those readings. And
But actually that is the curriculum to be followed.
exactly, that is why I thought that you
So she should be happy in a way that
Exactly.
that they are actually in a way doing the right thing only for her daughter, not for anybody else.
Right, right. I'm more than happy if my son is given the most simple readings
Yes,
and the
because
simple.
because that is supposed to be done for all children. So in a way, they are segregating all the others, and they are following the right rule for the child over here. However, there
Absolutely.
was one thing mentioned over there, wherein during online classes the child has been segregated. This is one thing which is not to be done, because as per the MHRD Pragyata guidelines clearly specifies that even when you are doing online classes, you have to ensure that the children are even the children who are under the PWD category, they are somehow made a part of the group. They are made a part of the setup. And obviously for enrichment classes, for certain extra inputs, they can have a session, one session or two session in a week with the special educator. But that does not mean that they will only sit with the special educator. That is something which is strictly mentioned not to be done in the Pragyata guidelines mentioned in MHRD, given by MHRD, which is there in the public domain. And therefore, I think on that respect, the parent concerned can approach the school. Uh, I think I have answered most of the questions. And the next slide is, obviously I have discussed most of the points. Can I go to the next slide after the question answers, please? After this, please. After this, which is points to ponder upon. Yeah. Yes. So as I have been completely reiterating from the beginning, laws, policies, and realities of implementation should not be out of sync. If it is out of sync, then you may give the most beautiful visionary policy on paper, but the policy will remain on paper itself and never see the reality. Deregulation and school choice promotes segregation and exclusion. Yes, this is what I want to say, that in the NEP, they have left it open for the parents. Now, again, this is something I want to actually read out a particular case study. There are countries wherein, if I can go there and do it, just a second. Yeah, just give me one moment, please. I want to refer to some very important detail. I will not be able to share my screen, so I will just be reading it out for the people. Is it okay?
Yes, yes, you can read it out.
Let's quickly do that because I know the time is running. So yeah,
How time flew, we didn't understand. It was so informative.
I'll just quickly complete this part. This is important. That's why I want to, yeah, give the information. Yes. Okay, so when it comes to yeah, so there are many this particular point, I think I will just explain it in a simple manner. When it comes to making an alternate model of schooling wherein it is trying to merge different schools, in fact it is going to do away with the complex of school, even that is being proposed. So this entire thing will allow, and giving an open choice for the parents that they can be doing enrolling their children as per whatever their choices. What happens, this creates a further you can say inequality, because in different countries it has been studied that in countries which is some countries, they are having admissions based on, in a particular school, on the ethnicity. Certain countries, the major admissions are taken by parents in certain schools which is based on the wealth factor. So again, this is something which needs to be understood, that too much of privatization, because in a country wherein you are having more than 80% of the population who is not getting equitable education, you are expecting that private philanthropy will work towards creating that equitable education. It is in itself a farce. So in a nation like ours, everywhere in various points in the policy, I read that it was mentioned that substantial investment in a strong, vibrant public education system, as well as the encouragement and facilitation of true philanthropic private participation. I cannot understand the concept of true philanthropic private participation. It has to be, as the RTE had said, it has to be a duty of the state. So this deregulation and this rationalization and allowing excessive privatization is something which we need to be concerned about, because it may lead to further inequities as well. I think I have discussed about the special educational zones, common school system proposed by Kothari Commission. I have also referred to the disparity in distribution of resources. Yes, any policy needs proper budgetary allocations. They have increased in the budget. Obviously, they have mentioned that the percentage of investment in the education sector will be higher compared to what it was before, and we are going to see the reality in some time. I hope so. Not like the other situations that we have seen. NEP, again, one major point that I would like to mention here is it fails to put a spotlight on the mental health. Yes, it is actually referring to life skills and our soft skills, but it is not prominently mentioning about mental health. And again, the survey says that on the happiness index, India as a country is ranking 144th out of 156 countries when it comes to happiness. So therefore, do you think we need to be removing, or we need more focus on education which is catering to emotional as well as achievement level? So emotional aspect cannot be negated, and universalizing school education via privatization. As I said, when it comes to private philanthropic activities, the term in itself looks like a little antithesis for me, a kind of oxymoron. So let's see what happens. The last slide, please. Can we go to the, as I said, it's a right visionary step, but challenging implementation. And the last slide, and with which I would like to end my presentation. And as I said, we will know that inclusive education has really become embedded in our culture when the term itself becomes obsolete. So on that note, I think I'm sorry that I have been exceeded time, but
absolutely very, very important. And the last note was, it touched my heart actually. So I'm sure with everyone that is the same. And thank you so much, Rashmi Mantri ma'am, because it's not only a critical analysis, it's very informative. And we had been, since this has been archived by Bhavna Child Development Center on their YouTube channel. So it will be very important for also parents and professionals to go over it again and again to understand it within the span of 2 hours, how concisely, how nicely you have put in all the points. Thankful to you for that. Thank you very much, ma'am. Can we actually?
I tried to manage my way with all the technological handicaps that I was getting.
Oh my God, there was a lot of technical handicaps. Sorry about that. And today we are not going to go for the documentary because it's a 12 minutes one and people can access it. So I would request Angelus and Anana ma'am to share the link on the chat and we can view it again at our leisure. But today I would request you all to stay for 2 minutes more, as we are very happy. And also I wanted to mention that 2 of our panelists from Building the Bridges Part 1, Gautam Mojumdar sir and Chandrima Bhattacharya ma'am, were also today with us with this webinar. And today we are very happy to have among us our co-founder trustee, who is most of the time not able to join us because she stays on the other side of the meridian, so in California. But Bandhana Katoch is there, who has been always willing to be there with us. So I would request Bandhana ma'am to join us and give the vote of thanks for today's event. And thank you all for joining us. And Bandhana ma'am, could you please come before us, because people are so much interested to see you. And thank you, Rashmi Mantri ma'am, all over again. This was so wonderful. And I need to go over the video again and again to learn it and understand that. Thank you so much for this. Yes, Bandhana ma'am, Bandhana Katoch is there.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Aditi. So good evening, everyone. It's my honor today to be part of this event. I would like to convey my heartfelt gratitude to keynote speaker, Rashmi Mantri, for her thought-provoking discussions. It was really interesting for me to listen in for last 2 hours and understand what is going on in India and how to make the education different. And this is amazing. Thank you so much. I would like to thank Bhavna Child Development Center for the Zoom space. We are all able to connect here today for the efforts they have helped us with. Our gratitude to Krypton Company, Mr. Amojit Banerjee, for sponsoring our website, which will be launched today. Thank you to Vaskar Rao Chaudhary for designing our website, which is going live. So I hope you will go to the website and see different aspects of Samya Foundation. I would like to thank Suja Peshwardev for sharing her blog space in our newsletter section. On behalf of Samya family, would like to convey heartfelt thank you to Rituparna Sarkar and Mahua Ghosh for coordinating the program. They have been supporting us for throughout all the events of Samya from last many years. We would like to thank you to Samya children, to parents, families, and all the audience here today. And I have no words to thank you, Angelus and Ananya, for helping us with event coordination, logistics, and everything else you do throughout the year. Thank you. Finally, I would like to thank Dr. Aditi Bandyopadhyay for her hard work in making Samya a possibility and for being inspirations for many. Thank you to each and everyone here for being an important part of the change we are all trying to bring. Equality for all, Samya. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here.
Thank you. And may I take this opportunity to say that Samya, the word was coined by Bandhana Katoch herself. Samya means equality for all. And this reminds me on another note, you know, the audience, that today we see the broad daylight behind Bandhana ma'am, while we are in darkness because we are in the other side of the world. So that is Samya. You see, we connect everyone, equality for all. So be it daylight, be it not daylight or under the moon, we are all together, connected with the same purpose, with our mission to bring equality for all. Thank you very much with this successful event. Thank you, Rituparna and Mahuadi, and everyone else who joined us today and made this a huge success. And again, thank you, Rashmi, ma'am, and Rashmi, my friend, for empowering us today with your wonderful session. Hope this national education policy actually brings about change and the word inclusive education becomes obsolete in near future. Let us live till that day and brave the coronavirus till that time. Thank you very much to all of you.
Good night to everybody.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
And thank you again, Arunashish Babu, for staying there and helping us through the process. Thanks a lot, Dr. Sudeshna Chaudhary and Arunashish Adhikari, with the support and the help that we got from Bhavna Child Development Center. Thank you very much, the audience. Have a good night and love you all, my children. It really aches my heart to see you all through the screen, but that's the way it is. So let's all pray for a wonderful future ahead. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bandhana.
Thank you.
I can leave?
We can leave gradually. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the time and for the wonderful session. I was noting down the points and so much. I must say that today I'm just sharing this informally. I know some of the audiences are there, but I would say that not only that you are a wonderful teacher, educator, but you would have made a great lawyer too, with knowing the policies so well.
I wish I could have given more information because there's so much to give, but the technology kind of, impaired us a little today, but that's okay.
Thank you very much for braving the challenge of this. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.